I never told anyone what happened in the reflection room because technically nothing happened. That's the part that still bothers me. When I walked past it that morning, she was already inside. The room sits in the center of the school, all glass. You can see it from the main hallway, from the cafeteria doors, from the stairwell landing. They designed it that way on purpose. Transparent accountability, the principal called it at the assembly. Progressive discipline. Restorative practice. A place to think. It was effectively the middle school version of a fish tank. You break a minor rule, you don't get suspended. You don't get sent home. You get sent to reflect. You sit at a desk under bright lights with a clipboard. You write what you did, why it was harmful, what you will do differently. Then you earn your way back into class. But the rule is no one talks to you while you're inside. Not teachers, not friends, not even a glance, if they can help it. You're present, but socially paused. That's what the handbook says, at least. Social pause. Her name was Leela Moreno, 7th grade. She was new that semester. I was her science teacher. She was in there for defiance, which meant she corrected Mr. Harlan during history and wouldn't apologize when he told her to stop interrupting. I read the referral. She had said, "That's not what happened in 1968. He wrote that she was argumentative. When I passed the glass, she was sitting very straight, hands folded, backpack at her feet. She looked at me. I did what we're trained to do, and I kept walking. That's the first thing I would change. By third period, she was still there. Students slowed when they passed. Some stared. Some pretended not to. The room has no curtains, no privacy film, just 4 glass walls and a whiteboard inside with the word reflect written across the top in green marker. At lunch, she was still there. I asked the assistant principal, Dana Kessler, how long they plan to keep her in there. Until she cooperates and until she completes the packet, Dana said. She's resisting the process. Resisting how? Well, she's not writing anything meaningful. That afternoon, I walked past again. Leela's clipboard was blank, except for her name at the top. When I paused, she lifted the board and pressed it against the glass so I could see. Under her name, she had written one sentence. "No one can hear me in here." I looked up at her face. She wasn't crying. She wasn't angry. She looked confused. I should have stepped inside. Teachers can enter if it's instructional. That's in the policy too. Instead, I told myself this was part of it. Discomfort is growth. I kept walking. The next morning, she was back. The same desk, same posture. The reflection room is supposed to be short-term, a period, 2 at most. Overnight, or rather into the next day, is rare. I asked Dana again. "She chose to return," Dana said. "She hasn't completed the reflection. We can't release her without accountability." "Right, but she went home." "Yes, but she came back unchanged." Unchanged. That word stuck with me. During 4th period, a group of 8th graders started tapping on the glass as they passed. Not hard, just enough to get her attention. She didn't react. At least I thought she didn't. When I walked by her after dismissal, she was sitting there again. The building was quiet. Custodians moving carts, overhead lights humming. Her clipboard was gone. In its place, she had flipped the desk slightly toward the glass. She pointed down. I stepped closer. On the underside of the desk, carved into the laminate in thin, cramped letters, were words. "It takes longer than you think." Below it, another line. "Don't let it go past 2 days." The carving was old, layered, multiple handwritings overlapping. I felt something tighten in my chest. "How long had you been in here?" I asked. She blinked at me and then mouthed something. I couldn't hear her through the glass, so I stepped inside. The room smells faintly of dry erase markers and cleaner. The door clicks shut automatically. It's not locked, but it feels like it. How long? I asked again, and she frowned. Since yesterday, she said. Her voice sounded thin, like it had traveled a long way. It feels longer, she added. I looked at the carvings again. There were more under the desk, closer to the back edge. They forget you. You forget you. After 3 days, they stopped seeing you. I felt a flicker of irritation at whoever had done this. The kids can be dramatic. They scratch things into bathroom stalls. They invent legends. Who did this? I asked. She shook her head. It was here. Did someone tell you something? No, she said. Her eyes kept drifting to the hallway outside, students moving past, teachers, life continuing. Do they look different to you? She asked. Who? I said. Everyone. I almost laughed. They're just walking to class. She swallowed. I mean, do they look like they're looking at me? I stepped back outside. From the hallway, through the glass, she was there, solid, visible. But something about the light made her edges softer. The fluorescent panels above the room are brighter than the hallway lights. It flattens whoever sits inside through the glass. Dana approached from the office. You're not supposed to enter unless you're facilitating, she said quietly to me. I was checking on her. She needs to complete the packet, Dana said. She says it feels longer than a day. Dana gave me a measured look. It's uncomfortable, that's the point. By the end of the week, 2 other students had spent time in the reflection room, one for vaping in the bathroom, one for shoving somebody in the hallway. Both were in there and out of there within a day. Leela was still there. The explanation shifted. She's escalating, Dana said. Now she's refusing eye contact. She won't engage when spoken to. Well, I've spoken to her, I said. Dana paused. When? Yesterday, in the room. Dana's expression changed slightly. You're not supposed to disrupt the process, she said. That's not what I meant. I meant she answered me. Dana folded her arms. She hasn't responded to staff since Thursday. That wasn't true. It couldn't be. I walked straight to the glass. Leela was sitting differently now, shoulders curved, hands under the desk. I tapped lightly. She didn't look up. Leela, I said through the door as I opened it. She didn't react. Leela. Nothing. I stepped fully inside. She was there. I could see her breathing. Leela, can you hear me? Her eyes flicked toward me for a fraction of a second, then past me, like I wasn't centered in her vision. I crouched beside the desk. On the underside, new words had been carved. They stop calling on you first. Then they stop grading your work. Then they stop writing your name. The letters were fresh, pale against the laminate. I felt my pulse in my throat. I went to the attendance system. Leela Moreno was marked present Monday, absent Tuesday, and withdrawn on Wednesday. Withdrawn. I clicked her profile. It said status transferred. There was no status transfer request, no parent email. I called the office. Is Leela still enrolled? I asked. There was a pause. Who? The secretary said. Leela Moreno, 7th grade. I could hear her typing in the background. I don't see that name. She's in the reflection room. She's here. Another pause. We don't have anyone assigned right now, she said. I turned slowly toward the glass. The desk was there, the chair was there, the clipboard was on the surface. Empty. I walked to the door and opened it. The room was empty, completely. I checked the hallway, the bathrooms, the nurse's office, nothing. Dana met me at the stairs. You look pale, she said. Where is she? Who? Leela. Dana's forehead creased slightly. I don't recognize that name. You signed her referral. I haven't written a referral this week, Dana said. I walked back to the desk, lightheaded, ran my fingers under the carved words. They were still there, layered, deep. At the very edge, there was one more line. It said, if you can still read this, you're early. I went home that night and couldn't sleep. The next morning, 2 boys were sitting in the cafeteria alone. They had the look of kids who don't quite fit. Quiet, shoulders tight. I recognized them. Evan Price, suspended last fall for fighting. Marcus Lynn, repeated detentions for skipping class. Both had spent time in the reflection room. I watched as students moved around them. No one bumped into them. No one spoke. It wasn't active cruelty. It was absence. I walked over. Evan? I said. He didn't look up. Marcus? Nothing. I sat down across from them. Their trays of food were untouched. Can you hear me? Evan's eyes flicked toward me, brief and uncertain, then away. A group of girls walked by. One of them sat in the chair that was half under Marcus's arm. She didn't seem to notice. He adjusted slightly, made space. She never looked at him. That's when I understood. The policy didn't erase students. It trained everyone else too. We practice not seeing. We rehearse indifference. We normalize silence. I went to the principal that afternoon. I told him about the carvings, the attendance records, the boys in the cafeteria. He listened politely. Well, we don't have a record of what you're describing, he said. Our data shows a reduction in repeat offenses since implementing the reflection room. But what about the students who disappear? Well, no one disappears. They're still here. I said, that's the problem. He gave me a confused look, one that I'd sort of seen before. Distancing. Why don't you take a few days, he suggested. You seem stressed. I went back to the glass room one last time. It was empty. Sunlight from the high windows made the interior too bright to look at directly. I stepped inside. The air felt thin. I ran my hand under the desk again. Someone had added to the carving. Don't stay longer than they can ignore. I stood there longer than I should have. Long enough that the hallway noise faded. Long enough that a class change bell rang and no one glanced in. For a second, I wondered if Dana was right, if I was just tired, if this was all exaggeration. Then a student walked past the glass and looked straight through me. No pause, no double take, just absence. I stepped outside immediately. The next week, I submitted my resignation. Officially, it was for personal reasons. Unofficially, it was because I caught myself doing it. A boy in my 3rd period raised his hand. Soft voice, new kid. I almost called on someone else. Almost let him sit there long enough that the room adjusted around his silence. That's how it starts. You look away once, then twice, and the system does the rest. I still drive by the school sometimes. The reflection room is visible from the parking lot if you know exactly where to stand. It looks clean, transparent, and harmless. Sometimes there's a student inside, sometimes it's empty. I don't try to count anymore, because I know the number isn't the point. The point is how easy it is to forget someone who is still standing right in front of you. There's a particular loneliness in being visible and still left alone inside it. Most people carry that feeling more often than they let on, moving through rooms and life and hoping someone will truly register their presence. A little attention, offered with patience and sincerity, can keep the world from growing cold around someone. Please take care of yourself and of the people near you, and thank you for being here.